And another set of steps.
We're ready. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, exactly. It's something like that.
Oh, it just popped up. Yep.
There we go. I think we're coming up live. And now I have to try and find us. There we are. Okay. Cool. So this is where it gets tough. Hold on one sec. Well, hey, hi world. We're live while we're setting up here. So just bear with us a second. My partner, David, to the rescue. Hey, bud, if you want to monitor the Facebook feed and let me know if there's questions or comments, and then I can go try and toggle and look at them. But otherwise, I'm just going to focus on the Zoom with Lynn and just going through the interview. So thanks. So what I think I have to, okay, yeah, I don't want to. Okay, cool. All right, so we're good. We are live and on Facebook. I'm going to try and minimize that. I definitely need an extra screen at this point.
Or a bigger one.
Yeah, something, definitely. People, who's got extra screens? You want to? Because what you miss is I can't see the comments, right? That's the struggle for me with it. So you'd love to see the comments, bless you. You'd love to see the comments live, right? In case there's a comment or a question or something. But I run out of real estate on my laptop screen. So I've got us here talking, and then I've got my notes.
Script.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Basically, and let's be honest, the script is way more important than than seeing the comments on Facebook. So David will help us out with that. Perfect. Okay, so he's going to do that. All right. So we're streaming live. We're good. Bless you. Okay. Hi. All right, so let's go ahead. We're gonna go live now, as we do on the podcast. I like this part. It's like very fancy. 5, 4, 3, 2,
1. You're on.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations by GrowthHax. I'm Rob Ryan, your host and moderator for the day, and I am really excited for everybody to join us today for this branding tips and strategies conversation. The next episode in our conversational series that we're producing here at GrowthHax for the benefit of all of you entrepreneurs, no matter where you are viewing this and consuming this or when you're consuming it. So I'm really excited to welcome a longtime friend. I won't say old friend because that's just not appropriate, right? a longtime friend, Lynne Door, and Lynn's coming to us from Orange County, where I used to live, down south of me here in Los Angeles. We're in Southern California, and no, we're not surrounded by the fires that you guys are all reading about, thankfully. But I wanted to welcome Lynne. So Lynne, welcome. So excited to have you here today.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here. And I love talking about branding. So
exactly.
I love it.
We're going to have some fun today, and folks are going to learn a lot. So as the host moderator, let me kind of walk folks through what to expect for the next 45 minutes or so. So here's my plan is, right, we want to share a bunch of wisdom and information on how to design, build, and manage your brands. Lynne has a wealth of experience in this area. And frankly, the motivation for this, for me and GrowthHax to offer this to you all, wasn't just my friendship with Lynne, but it was my sense that I know from working with the thousands of entrepreneurs that we work with at GrowthHax around Latin America that follow us here in social media, that a lot of you don't, unfortunately, for no fault of your own, get access to the type of experience and professionalism and background and industry experience that Lynne brings. So this is just an awesome chance for you all to learn. And like I said, whether you're watching it today, right now, as we're going, or you're watching it later, that's cool. Whatever works for you. You can always follow up with me, and we'll give you some social media ways at the end of the show to be able to find Lynne and just continue to learn from her, and hopefully be able to apply these lessons to your experiences in Latin America, right? So I'm going to go through, we're going to talk about a bunch of different stuff. I'm going to try and watch the comments section. If you get a comment and I don't see it right away, I'm sorry for that. I'll try and catch up to it. We've got my trusted partner in crime, David Biguero, is behind the scenes trying to help me keep tabs of any questions or comments that come up live. But if we miss you, we'll get to you. So let's jump into this a little bit. So a lot of you may or may not know me, and you may or may not know a little bit about GrowthHax. So I'm going to tell you about that before we get into letting Lynn tell you more about what she does and why she does it. So I am Rob Ryan. As I said, I'm the founder and CEO of GrowthHax. What is GrowthHax? GrowthHax is a consulting and strategy provider to all the organizations that most of you are a part of, who are the institutions building the entrepreneurial economies of Latin America. So we work with the universities, the governments, the big NGOs, the corporates, and then the investor groups to try and help them basically do what they do better. We do it in a bunch of different ways. Some of you may already be familiar with some of the content, like this conversation series that we launched last month, or maybe even you've had a chance to listen to our Mentors Today podcast, which is basically like podcast mentoring that we do, answering your actual real life questions from around Latin America. And that's available to you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and SoundCloud, and every other 9 or 19 different podcasting platforms that exist in the world today. You can pretty much find us anywhere. And we're in the business of helping you all become the best, better founders and business owners that you can be. We do it in the way that I just described, but make no mistake that our passion, our why, the people that we really ultimately look to benefit from all the work that we help other institutions do and that we do ourselves is you, the individual entrepreneurs and small business owners that are all over the world. So I know I share that passion with Lynn. We've talked about that in the past. She was, ironically, I'll tie this in a little bit as to kind of kick off her story. She was literally a branding design strategist consultant to me at one point in my business life, and in a prior life a couple of companies ago. So I know very well the benefit of having someone like Lynn in your corner. And I know what it's like to also not understand the things that someone like Lynn does or the value that she brings, because I've grown through those experiences myself. So I'm super stoked. We've known each other for a while. This is a friendly conversation to benefit all of you. And now I'm going to kind of turn it over. And honestly, Lynn, why don't you just tell a bit more of your story about Lynne Door Design and also just about Lynne Door for our audience.
Well, thank you. Thank you for teeing that up, Rob. Appreciate it. All those good things. Yes, so I started my freelance career probably about 2004. I worked for an agency for about 5 or 6 years. And then I decided, I think I want to do freelance. So in the perfect time, right when the economy was I forget the name of it, during 2008, 2009.
The last big problem we had.
The last big recession, I decided to go out on my own and start my business. So I not only understand what it's like to take a risk and become an entrepreneur, but I also know what it's like to do it in a risky market.
Yeah.
A real down market. But I decided it was something that I was really passionate about doing. I wanted to serve clients directly and do good work for good people. So I just showed up every day and did the work. And here I am 11 years later.
Nice.
And I am a brand strategist and designer for businesses and entrepreneurs. And I provide the brand strategy roadmap so that those people know how to show up every day in every way to improve their customers' lives. So what does that really mean? So people always say, well, what's a brand strategy roadmap, Lynn? Well, a brand strategy roadmap is all the strategy that goes into your brand, your why, your vision, your mission, your messaging, your core values, and all of your visual identity. So that at the end of the process, when we get done strategizing and creating your visual identity, you have all the tools and all the files, as well as the clarity and confidence to go out and tell your brand story, connect to your audience authentically, and grow your business, because that's what it's really all about. That's awesome. That's what I do. And I do focus on wellness, food, and lifestyle brands. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier.
Nope, and I didn't either, but we're going to dig into that a little bit further too, but please, how did you wind up in that space?
Because I decided I needed to niche down a little bit for me, because I realized, like everything, when you are a jack of all trades and you're doing everything for everyone, that doesn't work. You really need to do what you're passionate about. And for me, working with people that improve other people's lives was my passion. And for me, that's all about health and wellness, food and lifestyle brands that put a product or service out that means something, that helps people look at their life a little differently, that helps them get healthier or helps them improve their mood, whatever it is, or their space, anything like that. That's what I was passionate about. So that's why I wanted to focus on those kind of industries and businesses.
Just as an aside, before we jump in even deeper, but that's such an amazing perspective for a few different reasons, right? So we often, in our mentorship of founders of all ages and experiences in all industries, like we often spend an extraordinary amount of time trying to help people understand that focus, right? And that the whole customer identification process, right? Like understanding the persona or the profile of your user or your paying client. And we do that work a lot, right? And there is so much of, especially like in the technology space, there's so much of new innovation and new entrepreneurship that is born of the idea. Like I created this cool thing, right? And so therefore I just want to go build that thing.
Right.
And young companies especially will struggle with what you went through in your journey, right? So you went through it in the very traditional way, like, hey, I am all things to all people. Like I am good at what I do. I could hypothetically help from the biggest company in the world to the smallest company in the world because I'm good at what I do. But then over time, you found like you narrowed it down for yourself, basically further defining the ideal customer profile for you. And I would imagine, here's the question, like I would imagine, did that then unleash like another level of like growth for you? And did it unleash like another level of creative and like happiness for you?
For sure. The happiness, yes. The growth is still happening because what happened is, there's like every industry, there's a lot of designers, there's a lot of brand strategists, there's a lot of dentists and lawyers and coaches and everything. But what you need to do is differentiate yourself, because if I couldn't differentiate myself in a market, then people would look at me and maybe another designer and say, well, what's the difference between these two? And well, what's their price then? It's if there's nothing to differentiate me from another and my value that I'm offering, then it's just going to come down to price. So I want to make sure that it's not just about pricing and it's about the value that I'm providing, and that their values match up with my values. And I'm working with same likeness of people who are looking for that same thing out of life that I am. So, and when you connect that way, there's more of a connection. And you're able to do the same, the work that they're looking for because you have very similar interests.
It's a great lesson for any entrepreneur in any field, right? I mean, that supersedes the conversation about branding and design that we're about to jump into. But I think it's such a great lesson. And it's one of the hallmarks that I love about anytime we create content is we have this thesis that says, the teachers and the role models don't just have to be like the supposedly fancy VIP person with the big title from the big company. Like the truth is that we can all, as entrepreneurs, we can all learn, we believe at GrowthHax, more effectively from people like yourself who come along and are just like us, right? And are going through the same struggles and are building and succeeding and learning. So that's an awesome lesson to like kick this off. So, all right. So I'm going to hit you with some of the kind of really obvious, kind of maybe misunderstood basics. I called it in my notes, right?
Okay, yeah, there's a lot.
So I'm going to play the role in the beginning of this conversation. I'm going to play the role of like the startup CEO who doesn't know anything but anything, but he or she kind of thinks they might know what they need. So the first obvious question that I think will be relevant to everybody is, maybe explain the basic difference between like branding, right? So this big word branding, and then like identity and logos.
Yes.
Right? So I think that could be super overwhelming to new businesses. Matter of fact, I would think most people don't even understand that there are differences. So why don't you talk about the differences between those things right now?
Yeah, it can be confusing and overwhelming. So, and what I like to do, my whole job is to clarify and make it really simple. And it is once you hear it. So I want you to think about an umbrella, and that umbrella is a brand. Underneath that umbrella, you have your logo, you have your identity, and then you have your branding. So a logo, very simple. It identifies a business in its simplest form as an icon or a mark. That's it. That's a logo. Your identity are all the visual aspects that make up your brand, that form, the overall arc of your brand. So it's all the customer touch points. It's your website, it's your business card, it's your social media, it's your packaging, everything that goes into all those visual touch points for your customer.
Which there's a lot of nowadays,
logo
right?
and identity. Oh, sorry.
There's a lot of those nowadays, more than there ever were, right?
Yeah. Oh, ton. Yes, absolutely. Now, logo and identity, those are tangible items. When you get to the branding part of this, that's the intangible. And that's the reputation. That's your reputation. That's the perception people have of your business. As Jeff Bezos of Amazon so clearly stated, I let you know, your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. It is the emotional, response they have to your brand, and it's not anything that you can change. It is what it is, because that's what branding is. It's that emotional connection that they have with you. So those are the three.
So they all tie together.
Oh yes.
Right. In the you kind of like with even something as core fundamental as the logo, like as the image, like that's an opportunity to start to say something about yourself. That's even down. And this was something I particularly have a weird fascination with. And you and I have talked about this before. Like the colors matter, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's psychology, color psychology, for sure. I mean, there's a reason why McDonald's and all of or Burger King and some of these other Wendy's have picked red and orange or yellow, because those colors conjures up a little hunger. They typically make you want to eat. There is definitely psychology to colors. Yes.
Okay, that's cool to know. But it's all integrated, right? So the random, it's not, and in my case, GrowthHax, green and blue, right? And that was because someone, probably I was following you or someone that I knew, or some article that I read somewhere, it said, that's like psychology of color, and there's like this color wheel that people can easily find out on Google or something, right? And in there, I kind of went through the spectrum of brands and colors, and I had never done that before. I had never really truly deeply owned it, like, and understood how that could represent like step one of telling the world that this is what we stand for. Then you have to back it up, right, with your actions, as you say. But in our case, it was, I think the words that were sentinel to that color scheme was like trustworthiness, positive energy, warmth, love, community, so all these like connected,
all your core values, Rob. I love
right?
it.
so I mean, honestly, I think I kind of came up with the color scheme of GrowthHax before I even came up with the name. And so in that sense, I'm using my example just to validate what you were just saying. Hugely important.
Yes, and all of brand strategy gives your logo meaning, and that is the reason why the color is important, the typography is important. All of that goes into, all that strategy goes into, the identity and your branding and your logo. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So here's another common misconception or misunderstanding, let's say, right? And we hear this a lot in Latin America. Not picking on Latin America, I hear it a lot everywhere, but it happens a lot, right? Is branding and marketing, it's all the same. It's the same person. I want to hire a branding and marketing person, or I want to hire a marketing firm to do my branding, so like, let's talk about that basic fundamental. What's the difference, or what's shared?
Yes, I love this. I love this because entrepreneurs want to get right on the marketing freeway. They want to just get right in that lane. And you have to take a step back and you have to do the brand strategy first. And I like to describe it as this, and I saw this somewhere and it just absolutely resonates. Branding is a pull, marketing is a push. So branding is all about defining who and what you are, and the marketing is telling people about it. So if you just head right to that marketing lane, and you think you're sending out a message that works, it probably doesn't, because you haven't done the strategy and you maybe don't know who your ideal client and who you're talking to yet is. So you have to do all that research first before you can do your marketing, because they're two very different strategies, both very important and work hand in hand. But in order to have good marketing, you have to have the brand strategy behind it, because that helps you. The brand strategy helps you create a messaging for the marketing that's going to resonate with your audience.
Makes total sense. Pull.
Yeah, when you think, I was like, oh yeah,
If
okay, that
so pull. So I'm gonna here's what we stand for. Here's what we are. Here's our vibe, our energy. That's to pull people in, right? And then
yeah.
market at them. Market is a proactive thing. We're pushing out to you.
Right, right, and that's all fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, marketing and you know, creating sales that way. You have to do that, but you have to make sure that your marketing is, you know, spot on, and you're speaking to the people that you need to connect with. So two different strategies, but definitely hand in hand.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Mhm.
pieces of it sounds like it's all coming together already, like pieces of a big puzzle.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this. I know concerns or weak fears, maybe even a strong word, but like the concerns and fears of some young companies is always about the budget and how much money they have to spend and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm not so worried about like you in particular as your example, or even in the US, like what it costs versus what it doesn't cost. I'm more concerned, like, let's try and help people figure out, for example, like this question here, right? So how do we understand or measure the value of like good brand versus bad branding to a company? Like how do we discern that?
Oh, I know, and that's so. Your brand, you know, those elements, and your logo and your color palette, it's about creating kind of a visual voice and an experience. And you want to make sure that you're, you know, creating value for your audience. And you need a brand strategy system, right? And hang on, I'm getting to my point here, because it's hard to you know, yeah, decipher between, you know, what you should go with and what you shouldn't go with,
Yeah.
and choosing an agency or even a designer. But the bottom line is you need to make sure that you're communicating your value. You explain, you know, what you have to offer. You're building a relationship with your audience, and you can't just, you know, decide, okay, you know, I'm just going to pick somebody and they're just going to be able to, you know, build what I want. They're gonna help me find my
Right.
solution to market that. So it's really important that you choose somebody, a creative partner to work with that understands your vision,
Sure.
that knows how to get you from point A to point B. And that's a question you're asking, right?
No, yeah, yeah. No, it's actually we're blending a couple questions together, which is perfect, right? So if
Yeah.
I'm that young company, I'm trying to figure out one, obviously, yes, I'm trying to like, who do I pick and why do I pick to do business with them, right? What is it that they're providing? And you just hit on some huge insights, right? Is you're really looking for creative partners, right? You're looking
Yes.
for people with with the skills to help take your ideas or concepts out and present them in a kind of a packageable way. But then
Mhm.
inside of it is, again, like to your point, right? A lot of young companies, especially, are just eager to just start selling something, right? We just want to sell,
Just yeah. Just
and
get it out
so
there.
if we rush out to sell and we haven't done the branding work, yeah, maybe we have a spike of some of growth, but maybe that's not consistent. So I think the other hard part is okay, after we've working with a brand designer, we've come up with our strategy, we're implementing it across all of our different medium. Like, how am I measuring that? Like, when, as the young CEO, who maybe you have investors who are saying, how are you spending our money? So how am I going to justify well, we spent this money on the branding, and
Ah,
not just
I get
like
it. Okay.
marketing, right? So how are we measuring, if I don't do any branding, what's the risk to me? Like, how might that affect our business? And then if we go all in and we do a lot of amazing branding work with someone like yourself, like, how do I see the ROI on that? How do I see the return?
Well, you want to rise, first of all, you want your company to rise above the noise. You want to differentiate yourself. And in order to do that, you need to have the strategy and build, you know, be of value, because people don't buy products, they buy solutions. And what you want to make sure is that you are positioning your company in a way and your brand so that you do stand out, so that you are differentiating yourself in your industry and your market. And when you can do that and you become an authority, people take notice. And when you're consistent about your branding and you know who you're talking to, you start to begin that like, know, trust factor in the marketing world, right? Rob, you know all about that. You know, people see you and you become, you stay repetitive and consistent with your brand. People start to like you, then they start to know you, then they start to trust you, and that builds loyalty. So that when they come to the point where they're like, oh, gosh, I need that. I've got a problem and I know that company has a solution for me. You're gonna remember them and you're gonna go right to them, which means you can charge a bit of a premium for that product or service because you've already shown that you are an authority and that you can solve their problem. So you can charge a little higher prices and get a little bit more of an investment from this audience that you're catering to.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, what we're doing is and it's an investment. I think that's the key word, right? It's an investment, not a cost.
Absolutely. You are investing in, yes, absolutely.
I'm paying you as a vendor, but I am essentially investing in your ability to help us build a portion of I always use the house metaphor, right? Like, we're building a house and there's a section of the house that we're not any good at. But if we don't have that section of the house might tip over, right? Or the house would be a lot less livable.
Exactly. Yes. The branding is the biggest investment you can make in your business.
Yeah. No, that's it. I mean, that's the headline summary, right? So it's an investment in it, and the ROI is seen over the long haul. So it's a long game. If you're playing the long game, which by the way, everybody should play the long game, because we always joke, the reality is it takes a long time to build successful businesses anyways. So once you get comfortable with the fact that it's going to take you 5 or 10 years to do something, like, you might as well then also invest in the long game as well.
Absolutely. And I just said that the other day too. People need to think about branding as a relationship. Because it is a sensory thing. It's, you can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it, you can, hear it. It's just all those things. So it's really a relationship. And you have to treat it like that. You have to nurture it. So it is a long haul process, but there is some serious, ROI that happens when you engage and invest in that. Yeah.
It seems like from what you're saying, I think then the other way that you would see, if we were talking about like, how do you measure the good or the bad of it, where you would see a lack of return, right, would be from not elevating above the noise of your competition, from not standing out, from from always having to be in the position of selling your product or your service as the low price competitor or as the cheapest alternative, or like, so if you start to hear that consistently from your markets, then that is your market saying, like, you may have skipped a step. Like, we might not trust you, like you, or respect you, as you say, as much as we do the alternatives. And so therefore we're not willing to pay you as much as you would like us to pay, or even that we should pay, because, and that's where the CEO can see, okay, like, we skipped the branding step because I was too cheap.
Yeah.
And I didn't care about
your value. You haven't proven your value to your audience. So they're like, well, this company, they offer the same thing and they're a little lower price. So I'm just going to go with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this for a second. This is not a question I was going to ask, but you just made me think of something, right? We're in the fact that we're doing this, right? That we're in this world. It's not just the virtualized part of it, but even pre-pandemic, right? We're in a world that's progressively dominated by the millennials and the Generation Z people, and then old people that try and act like them, like me, right? And so we're very much about human connection, and we're very much about, and I'm taking the positive spin here, like, right? We're very much about human connection. We're very much about community. We're very much about purpose. We're very much about social purpose even in our businesses. It's not quite there yet, but it's almost becoming an expectation, right? That your business has to do some social good. Like, you've been at this for a while, right? You've been at this for, maybe almost 20 years or so, both
don't age me too much.
in the agency world and in your own private practice. Like, how have you seen that change? Because the millennials and the Gen Zs, I mean, millennials are now like, what? That's like 33 and under. So, I mean, it's not like they're kids, right? So those are the people that are starting businesses and building new companies nowadays. And I'm wondering how it's different. Like what was branding strategy for your clients back then versus what you have to involve now? Values and humanity and all this social good.
Oh, Rob, that's a really good question because I think it's completely changed.
Okay.
First of all, 10 years ago, we didn't have all the social media like we do today. And people had to connect with their audience in very different ways than they do now. And the generational differences is because there's that much more to offer these days, and we're all so connected that there's a lot more opportunity and places to choose from. So when you have businesses that I just lost my train of thought.
No, it's okay. So we're just trying to dive into the whole, like, why now everything is so much more purposeful, right?
Yes.
And
So thank you. Thank you for getting me back on track. Yes.
I'm doing like David Letterman over here.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Just cue me up. So yes, businesses nowadays have to show what they're doing to improve people's lives.
Yeah.
They definitely their core values, what they stand for. If they're giving back. If they're giving back to nonprofits and what they're doing for the planet, what they're doing for all sorts of entities. And I think the younger generations are much more in tune to that. They want to work with and buy products and services from companies that are doing all that and making a difference.
And so when you're like strategizing with clients like you do, like brands like you do, these things that we're talking about now that I just raised, social consciousness, community connection, human connectivity, purpose, all that stuff, that's just talking points in your strategizing with them now. Like that's just like, that's like, what's the English phrase? Table stakes. Like that's like basic.
Absolutely.
We have to talk about that. We can't design your brand without talking about that.
So when I started, yes, it was more just, okay, I need a logo. Okay, I just need a logo. And it's evolved because that is so very important now, because your core values, your why, your purpose, how you want to make a difference is very much rooted in how you're going to run your business now. Yeah. And that brand strategy helps, it really defines every decision you're going to make about your business. Is this going, those core values and that mission and that vision that you have for your business, you're going to start to ask yourself, gosh, is this going to inform my audience? Are they going to, is this going to resonate with them? Is this going to appeal to them? Is it going to help them reach their goals? Brands are much more in tune to how that is going to make a difference in their audience's selection of their brand and business over another. Yeah, so that totally plays, it's hugely important now, more than ever after this past year in the United States, of course. I'm talking.
No, everywhere. So I can validate for you from beyond the wall world. Like it's everywhere. That's absolutely true. And I say it's almost more generationally driven than it is anything else. And it's fantastic. Like it's the way it should be. I like anecdotally, a funny side story. Like I was blessed that even though I was raised professionally by my dad, who was a very traditional salesperson by anybody's definition. Back then, there were not the definitions of like you're a B2B salesperson or you're like it was, none of that stuff existed. You were just a salesperson, right? But I always say I'm very blessed, and part of why I think I fit in not just in our business, but I fit overall, like culturally in the culture of business nowadays in the 21st century, is that even then, 30 years ago, at age 19, 33 years ago, at age 19, he was teaching me, he was literally telling me, I'm not calling you a salesperson. Don't call yourself a salesperson. You're a professional relationship builder. And I'm going to teach you how to build professional relationships. You're not selling something to someone. You're helping someone solve a problem.
Yes.
Like, and so those, at the time I was, he was my dad, so he was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I think now, as a 50-something-year-old man in business for this many years
It's
and
so
having
true.
basics, right? Basics nowadays.
It's relationships building. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that comes through in the brand story, right? That comes through. I mean, it's all integrated from what you're saying. So I've got a little prop I'm going to throw up here, and we go into the next topic. So now I think I'd love for us to build on this a little bit. Like, let's dig a little bit more deeply, because I know on your social media, you're super active on Instagram, which props to you. I'm not the only person in our
I try. I try.
I love it. It's great. And you can find her at Lynne Door Design, at Lynne Door Design on IG, and we'll put this up on the video in the show notes later. But I'm sitting here with my favorite book.
Start with why.
Right. This thing is literally, this thing never leaves like within 5 feet of my laptop. It's always in my backpack, no matter where I go, just to like glance at it and remember. I'm mostly using this as a reminder for myself.
Yes.
But talking about that, right? Like, you're very big. You have some statements. I think it's on your Instagram. I made some notes here real quick. It says you talk about like helping people find their purpose, right? Like helping them define their brand related to their purpose, right? Even I think the introductory notes of our show, right, are about your phrase that you have, which I scraped from your Instagram, about understanding how to build your brand related to essentially your why.
Your why.
Talk about why that's so important.
I'd love to, because that is the root of everything you're doing. It is your purpose and the passion that brings you to the table. And it's important because most businesses know what they do and how they do it, but they don't know why. You know, they just kind of, okay, we've got this great product and I just want to put it out there. Okay, well, why? You know, well, what are the factors behind that? And your why is a part of your brand story that, you know, you tell your audience, that creates that connection. It creates an experience and trust. And when you start with your why, you attract customers that share those same beliefs. So it goes back to kind of core values too, in a way. You know, what you stand for and your why, those are the people that you want to attract. And if you want to inspire others, you really have to tell your story and why you do things instead of what you do. Now, I'm not saying, I don't want to confuse that, because you always want to make the customer the hero. You know, you want to make sure you're providing and showing value to them, and you want to make sure that, you know, they understand what you can do for them. But it's also important that they know what your why is and the passion behind what you're doing. Because that's what resonates. People, you know, are attracted to like-minded people. And
you said something earlier, right? You said you made a mention about the like, trust, respect, right? That those are the real drivers of why people buy.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So it's really important to define what your why is and move forward. And then again, all your business decisions are going to come back to that why, to make sure that you're still focused on what your brand is all about. And this goes for not just businesses, but personal branding. I may be backtracking here, but you know, the younger generations are very much about their own personal brand too.
Yep.
And what they want to contribute to the world. So personal branding and business branding, same thing. It's all about, you know, your why and what you're passionate about and what you want to, how you want to help, how you want to impact people. Positively.
I'll share a quick story just to validate and amplify what you're saying. So one, tie back to kind of my dad comment, right? He'd be rolling in his grave right now. He wouldn't understand any of what we're talking about now. You know, this would all sound so crazy and foreign related to business. But yet, here's a perfect example, right? So my partner in GrowthHax, David Baguero from Tijuana, is a super talented millennial. And I'll never forget that when we first met, and when he was just kind of like a friendly, helping me to chart maybe GrowthHax could be relevant in Mexico back in like 2016, he famously said to me one day, "Hey, you're going to really have to up your like social media game, because like, I mean, I don't know how we can promote the business as being credible when you have like 102 followers on Twitter." right? Or when you have like 11, I think at the time I had like 11 people on Instagram. He's like, come on, man, like you gotta use these tools. You have to, you've got all kinds of stuff to talk about. He's like, I've talked to you. I know you have things you like to say, you want to say, like, that's what you need to build up. And at the time, it was so anathema to me. It made no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right? Thank God for David Bagero, because 4 years later, the world of how I communicate and tell stories and what my why is as Rob Ryan is so intertwined with the why of GrowthHax, the company that works with these big, huge institutions.
Right. I mean,
it's all aligned.
Yeah, and those followers, those people, they're interested. They're interested in what you have to say, and they want to know more, and they want to know your story and why you do what you do.
Yeah.
And that's whether it's 50 followers or 5,000. These people obviously care enough to follow you because they want to know more. They hear you, and you're providing some kind of value that they appreciate. I mean, that's what it's all about, and it's about serving that audience.
Yeah, no, 100%. So let me ask you a question. This is kind of like it'll sound like it's a process question from the prior segment, but I think it's actually perfect for right now, right? So if you and I met as I was a new prospect, right? Or I was interviewing you to prospectively be our brand designer and strategist to help me figure out how to tell our story and how to represent our why. Is there a process that you would put me through? Like, is there do you have like a step-by-step? Do you interview me? Like, what happens when we meet? Like, literally in your exact case, like, what would you do if we met as a prospective client? How would you figure out if you wanted to work with me?
I got a lot of questions.
Yeah. So it's an interview.
Absolutely. I want to know all about, your company, what you're passionate about. I'm going to ask you all about where you want to be in a year, where you want to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, how you got started, how you want to grow your business. It's kind of it's a branding questionnaire prior to all the brand strategy.
Okay, so you literally have, I mean, if we're just like super basic here, so you'll conduct like an interview, but then you also have like a questionnaire that you ask that I would have to fill out.
Yeah, because I want to know what your goals and your aspirations are for your business. I have to understand what you're looking to do in your business and why you want to do that, so that I know, okay, first of all, are we a good fit? Can I, help this person, find, a resolution and help them? So absolutely, it is definitely, I want to be, we work very closely together. I work very closely with my clients, and that's what I enjoy most, because I can nurture them and guide them through the whole process. So absolutely, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of listening, though. It's absolutely imperative for a designer to know how to listen and communicate well. So there's, just a lot of back and forth that takes place prior to even, starting the whole branding process.
So I know, like, in our work, it may be comparable, right? When we interview new prospective clients, organizations, the representatives of the organizations, right? We have a discovery process, right? Which is a very typical consulting word, right? So we're going to have a discovery process that's going to try and understand a lot of the things that you just said. What are their goals? What are their aspirations? What are their plans? What are their budgets? What are their, what resources do they have? Why are they doing this? What are the outcomes that they want? So you're saying that should be, if we're going to have a lesson for our entrepreneur friends that are listening today, one of the takeaways for them should be that if they're out there in the market looking for branding expertise and branding strategy people to work with, or designers to work with, if they're not being interviewed by those branding people, if they're not having those branding people ask them a lot of questions and listen and ask them about their origin story, then as a founder, potentially hiring you, I should be concerned. Like, that should be a red flag that this branding person. Okay.
Absolute red flag. Yes, blaring. That should absolutely be. If they just give you, okay, hey, we can do it for this, here's the price.
Yeah.
That would raise a huge, huge red flag. They should absolutely know what you're looking to do. What is your motivation? You know, again, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? You know, why are you making this product or service? What, you know, what is your goal? Absolutely.
So on that point, and because you know, I think what we're doing now is it's fun. We're hearing it from your point of view, like how you look at clients and how you literally choose, like in your own business as an entrepreneur, to who you're going to do business with. But then I'm flipping it back so we can also uncover these lessons for the person sitting on the entrepreneur side, saying, hey, I'm going to go try and find someone like Lynn in Mexico City or in Guadalajara or in Lima or in Buenos Aires. Like, what should I be looking for when I'm trying to find the Lynne Door of my life in that city or that country, right? And so we're giving them some tactical takeaways that they can go home with, which is huge. So on that front, this is a super obvious, like, newbie question. Is it typical to engage a brand strategist? Like, is it like a fixed fee project? Is it a by the hour kind of relationship? Like, what's the business mechanics of, like, how do we get a proposal and what does it look like?
Yes, so this is a great question because I think a lot of, you know, younger freelancers are out there doing hourly work, which is fine. You have to start somewhere, but there are risks to that. There's a lot of ambiguity going with somebody who is working by the hour. And this is one of those questions that, you know, it depends on, you know, who you ask and you know what your budget is. But, you know, in my experience and what I believe is I want to be upfront and I want to be transparent. And this is how most experienced designers and agencies are going to view this. They're going to ask a lot of questions. They know they have to get their client from point A to point B. So they'll say, okay, we can find, you know, a resolution for you for this price. We'll get you from point A to point B for this price. And it's open and honest. You know what it's going to cost. There's no surprises at the end. That is the best way to go about, you know, getting a proposal. You want to make sure that their aesthetic matches your aesthetic. You want to make sure that it's an open partnership in terms of, you know, you're working directly with the people that are going to be working on your project, and you can continue to ask questions, and you're going to be working with them, you know, pretty intimately, creating your brand and your business. And what happens is, if you go with, you know, somebody who's working hourly, it's based on price versus, okay, I'm going to, you know, you don't know when the result can happen. It might happen, let's say, in 10 hours, could happen in 20 hours, or maybe it's 40 hours. You don't really know how long it's going to take to get to the result you're looking for. So there could be a big old invoice at the end of that could be shocking. So that you're not prepared for. So when you go into a relationship with, you know, a designer or agency, right away, if you do a fixed fee, you know what you're getting into. You know the price up front. There's going to be no surprises at the end. So
I love the clarity.
You've moved the mindset from what an hour of time costs to the value of what you're getting.
Yep. No, and hey, I'll say, in our business, right, consultative, so built around the same types of models, it's always a struggle. Right. It's always a struggle, depending on the market, depending on the institution, the organization, the expectations, the past, like how the market existed before you showed up. Like, we come in and we're a bit more, in our case, in Latin America, we're differentiated in that sense. Like, we're different. Like, we're literally kind of more of an Americanized model for how we present and propose and do scopes of work. And that isn't necessarily the norm yet in a lot of places.
And it's tough because, you know, hey, everybody has a budget, and, you know, some people really don't have the money in terms of investing during certain times in the process, and that's absolutely fine. But if you're going to make, you know, a judgment of, gosh, you know, if you do have the option to, you know, go with one or the other, then you don't want to have to worry about how much time it's going to take, versus, okay, I know what I'm going to get out of this agency.
Yeah.
It's all about the result.
That's awesome. Super. I know it would be helpful. It's helpful for me, so I know it'll be helpful for anybody to think.
I hope so.
No, 100%. Let's do this. Let's spend we got about 10 minutes or so left. Let's jump in. I would love for you, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what we see in Latin America. And then I would love for you to talk about your specific experiences inside these industry verticals of like food and wellness and lifestyle. So in Latin America, and especially in like the kind of traditional, so there's traditional small business, right? Which obviously is the range of everything you could possibly imagine, and no different than in the US or anywhere else. And then there's kind of the startup, more entrepreneurial ecosystem, as they call it. And what's interesting is inside of that world, just by the nature of the problems that are available to be solved, right? Or the things that are available in people's lifestyle choices that can be made better. In Latin America, there are an extraordinary number of like food product brands, wellness products, like fitness oriented companies that maybe in US strict terms would not be defined as like startups, right? But because the markets for startup entrepreneurship in Latin America is really only about 10 years old, a lot of it is just all kind of treated as startups. So we run across, I can literally close my eyes. I'm thinking of 3 or 4 like food product brands that are companies that have been built by young women, entrepreneurs, Latinas, who are, have products to give you. I'll give you, without naming it, but I'll give you an example, like an alternative kind of organic new food product that has risen. God bless her and her team. They're incredible, but like I'm about to compliment them in this context, you'll understand. Like they've risen to the level of distribution where they're on the shelves in like Walmart, Mexico.
Wow.
Right. And Soriana, which would be like kind of like a Ralph's for us, like a big regional branded chain. But then we've got others that are, again, similar food product, organic food products, or new nutritional food products, right? Companies that want to design and develop multiple food products that are smaller and are selling through boutiques and local farmers markets, and just trying to build up their brand and a brand awareness and brand credibility. So I don't know anything about that space, and I never have, right? So I want to make sure today that I kind of get out of the way for the next 7 or 8 minutes and let you kind of just share some tips and ideas, maybe even get it to a point where we come with like 2 or 3 things that, if you're building a lifestyle brand in today's society, if you're building a wellness product company, if you're building a food company, like here are the 3 things you got to make sure you're doing. I think that would be awesome to share with them.
I've got one right off the top of my head, because the wellness and it's exploding. This is a market that is exploding, right? We all know we're all living longer. We all know what it takes, to have a healthy lifestyle these days. So when you've got a product that you need to get out, we've talked about, you need to, rise above the noise, differentiate yourself. But a good way to do that is to think about features versus benefits of your product. So you can talk about the features. So I'm just going to throw this off the top of my head here. You've got a powder supplement that you can put into water, into your smoothie. It's a grab and go kind of product. Really great. Okay, that's wonderful. That is the feature of your product. But what's the benefit of it? So you always want to remind people the benefit of your product, not just the feature, but the benefit. So you've got this great grab and go product that will give you more energy throughout the day, so you can tackle your list and get everything done.
Right.
Okay. That may be a benefit, not the greatest benefit off the top of my head.
No. But that, like, but you illustrate the example, right? I mean, that's
exactly. Yeah. So features versus benefits. So whether you're at the farmer's market or you're in the Walmart shelves, you want to make sure that people know the benefits of your product versus the features. I mean, they have to know both. The benefits is one thing that they say, oh yeah, that's what I need, because I need more energy to get through my day. I'm really busy. So if I do have this grab and go, supplement that I can drink, to get everything checked off my to-do list, that's me and I need that. So you want to make sure that they can see themselves in your brand and in your product.
Okay.
So that's definitely one.
No, so another thing I hear oftentimes, right? It's like, well, but it's healthy. It's a healthy snack. It's organic. It's low salt. It's low sugar. And I look at the founders who are so earnest and passionate about it, right? And then I think about the product, and then I think in the broad market, and I'm like, yeah, but all the products, like every organic product is low salt, low sugar, no
Right.
this, no that. Like, so
So
again,
that
like
benefit is
why?
what makes them different. So that benefit exactly separates them from the other products. So
Yeah.
what's their benefit that they can cater to?
And so if you were to play on our kind of pretend interview from a minute ago, right? So if I handed you three prospective clients and they were all like young new food brands, which arguably again kind of meld, it could be considered lifestyle, could be considered wellness, like, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, and I sat them down with you, you would take them through that same interview exercise, right? So you would want to dig into like, not just the product, like why this product, but you'd like, why, and I'm going to say her name, like why Christina and this, and hey, Christina, why you and why that product?
Exactly. What is this going to do for me? You
Yeah.
know, because again, it's they're people don't buy just a product, they're buying the solution. So how is your bar going to make my life better versus these other ones?
Yeah,
That's
and it's funny because as I'm hearing this in the back of my head, I'm thinking of Christina the first time we met and telling me we don't have healthy, organic, portable snack choices in Mexico. So we don't have enough of the like prepackaged. It's in a little bag. It's like just right portion size. Like she was saying this, like we didn't. She's like, I didn't feel like we had that, right? So it wasn't. So it was packaging. So it was portability. So it was the ability to take it on the go and the healthiness. But then it was mostly because she was telling me she's also a mom, right? So
okay.
she was like, I'm a busy mom.
Okay, that's great. So that's her little niche, right? So is
Yeah.
she marketing to, okay, mom, mom's on the go. So that's perfect, right? So
Yeah.
she has a niche market right there. Mom's on the
Yeah.
go,
No,
that are
and then,
looking for a
and then
healthy alternative to, the other products on the market.
and so you made references in your introduction, which I would love for us to kind of wrap around here a little bit at the end, right? So those markets like lifestyle product companies or wellness companies or food businesses or restaurants, those types of things, like those are so competitive,
Hmm.
right? I mean, there are literally millions of them everywhere in every market. And so how do you like as a brand strategist, like how do you work with new entrants into super crowded markets and believe that you're ever going to be able to help them like get above the noise?
Yeah, that's a great question because you have to come down to, okay, what is it that makes you unique? What is your unique competitive advantage in the market? So part of that whole brand strategy that we go through, we're digging in deep to what makes them unique, what makes this business unique, what makes their product unique, and that all comes from that brand strategy because you have to, what makes something unique makes it more interesting. So you have to, so for every customer, for every industry, that's different. But that's all part of the strategy and digging in and asking questions and going through the process to be
Yeah.
able to figure out what makes you unique so that you can use that as leverage and consistently tell your audience why you are unique. And again, it all kind of ties into the features and benefits and
Right.
being consistent in your brand and telling your story and what makes you unique and your why. All comes together.
Yeah, no, it really does sound like it
It
does.
really does. I feel like we're kind of doing a figure eight here because it's just
Yeah,
it's so connected. It's
which
very
I think that in and of itself is a huge takeaway, right? Because it is literally interwoven. It's not this separate thing
no.
as it relates to your business. Like if you're
Mhm.
not, and again, maybe GrowthHax in our humble example, maybe I had a clear vision of a couple pieces of the puzzle. Like I understood the psychology of color because I had done some homework and I listened to some smart people. But then I also at this age and at this stage of my life and my career and 4 businesses in, I had a very well defined vision for what I thought was possible and why we were going to do this.
Mhm.
And so okay, that gave me like a leg up, right? And but then really it's the reason the brand has grown or become, as you would say, like trusted and respected, was really just effort, just time, right? So kind of like,
Effort, but you're consistent. And that's another very, very key thing for branding, consistent. You're consistent in who you're talking to, what you're saying to them. You
yeah.
show up. It's the repetition that creates, memory, right?
No, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. And again, this isn't to pat us on the back because we've got a lot of work to do, but to give us as an example. And I know that David, if he was on here with us, he would be saying, this journey started in, basically the beginning of 2016. So a little 4.5 years ago, maybe. And it was like last spring / end of 2018, beginning of 2019, where we caught ourselves saying to each other a few times, oh, okay. Like the first couple years, it was like the first year it was Rob, because I was like I was the unicorn. I was the weird zebra in the world. Like I stood out because I just looked different. I sounded different. I said different, right? And then it was Rob and David, right? So then it became Rob and David. And then only a couple years later, like literally end of last year, end of 2018, beginning of 2019, did it start to become when people were talking to us about us, were they referring to GrowthHax? And people were calling us saying like, someone said, we should talk to you guys at GrowthHax because if you're going to do that project, you shouldn't do it without GrowthHax. And David and I looked at each other a few times. We're like, oh, what's happening? Like years of effort of,
Right.
of, as you say, showing up,
being consistent. Yes. Yeah. Repeating. And I always, one things I always like to say is people will always remember how you made them feel. And, if you feel really good about something, you want to have that again and again and again. So that's kind of branding in a nutshell. If you make someone feel good, they're going to come back.
Yeah. And in your talents, you are helping us to find that story in us and in our business. So then you can help us build as you said, the branding, the image, the logo, the presence on all the different medium every day, 24 hours. Like you're helping us build that so that we can get out of our own way to make people feel how we want them to feel when they buy our product or service.
Exactly. Absolutely. That's
awesome.
In a nutshell, Rob, that's it.
That's awesome. I mean, that's awesome. And it takes us full circle. So I don't know how you felt about this. This was a blast. I had a bunch of fun.
Can we do it again? We'll do it again. And
yeah, exactly. Right. Yes. And again, I know, I'll say this about this experience today with you, but I'll also use it as a lesson for everybody else that's listening is one of the things that early on, David and I became very committed to in our content, whether it was me going to stand on stage, flying across the country to stand on stage in front of an audience that was unknown to us, or agree to be on a podcast or produce a podcast or produce a live streaming events like this, we always say to each other, and we still say it, like, I literally don't care if there's one person in the room or if there are 1,000 people in the room. Because at the end of the day, if what you and I just did
helps
make a positive impact on one person's life,
yes,
it was 100 times worth it.
I completely agree. And that is the reason I do what I do. It's if it's one person, that's all that matters to me. I'm thrilled. I'm grateful. One person, one brand at a time.
Yeah, that's terrific. That's wonderful. So we can find you on social media. Everybody can find you on Instagram is your primary medium to communicate with your clients. And again, your Instagram address is?
Instagram is Lynne Door Design.
So Lynnne.
Lynnedor, just like a door, design. DESING.
And I'll vouch for her, everybody, that her Instagram is awesome. She is dropping knowledge on there now regularly. And there's weekly inspiration. There's, we always say we want to inspire, we want to educate, and we want to empower. And I can tell you, your Instagram right now, your stories feed is doing that every week.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you. I'm glad you see it that way. And again, I hope I want to get information out there and help as many businesses and entrepreneurs as I can.
No, terrific. I thank you. I'm super grateful. We're going to go ahead and end the live feed now. To anybody that was with us live, awesome. Thank you for being with us. If you're watching this later, fantastic. Thank you. Enjoy it. As I always say, you can find us at GrowthHax on any of our social media sites, literally just at GrowthHax, GrowthH, and then an extra H, AX. And if you want to try and find me or follow me on my social media, it's I am Rob Ryan, IAMROBRYAN across Twitter and Instagram. And I couldn't be more grateful for you. It was a blast to see you.
I know, it's so good to see you.
Right?
I love this.
In person and hear you at the same time.
Yeah, I so appreciate it. Thank you for having me. So grateful. And you've been, such a wonderful support, and I appreciate you. Thank you, and I hope we can do this again.
Yes, thank you. Everybody, thanks for episode 2 of our conversation series from GrowthHax. Bye.